introduce myself. My handle is Sherodd Craft, and I'm an advocate for the Free Bono movement. This movement is about me, Sherodd Craft, better known throughout the streets of Albany, New York as Sonny Bono, and I was victimized by the most corrupt cop the city of Albany, New York has ever known, Detective Kenneth P. Wilcox. Detective Kenneth P. Wilcox and his cast of co-conspirators, which includes his informants, fellow officers, district attorneys, and judges, acted in harmony to fabricate and conceal evidence, manipulate testimony, and intimidate witnesses to secure and maintain my conviction. I've been wrongfully incarcerated within the New York State Department of Corrections for nearly 11 years. Despite the lead detective, Kenneth P. Wilcox, being a proven corrupt police officer, and Desmond T. Tatro, an eyewitness who identifies Anthony Malloy as the shooter, and the Albany Police Department's own Detective Anthony Ryan, openly admitting to arresting me without a warrant, because if there came a time when a warrant would be issued, he didn't want to be chasing me around for months. I've had my motions for a new trial denied again and again. Supreme Court Judge Joseph C. Teresi admitted my conviction violated the New York State and United States Constitution because I stand convicted of a crime in which the instructions to the jury are erroneous. Ironically, Supreme Court Judge Joseph C. Teresi rejected my plea for a new trial on the grounds that this issue had been previously raised on direct appeal. However, my appeal decision reflects otherwise. This case screams out unfairness, yet I have never been able to get evidence of my innocence presented to a jury. There has never been any eyewitnesses who can place me at or even near the scene of the crime. No physical evidence, no murder weapon, no fingerprints, and no DNA that pointed to me as the person who attempted to murder Javon Morton and murder Shakira Chambers on June 3rd, 2001. The evidence against me came down to 6 witnesses presented by Joseph Muir, the prosecutor of my trial, who all in some way had incentive to cooperate. Anthony Malloy, who was identified by Desmond T. Tatro as the shooter, while under arrest for an undisclosed felony complaint, contacts Detective Kenneth P. Wilcox, and after some negotiations agreed to testify in exchange for freedom. Adrian Teasley, a 14-year-old child who was brought to the Albany Police Department unbeknownst to his parent or guardian and coerced by Detective Kenneth P. Wilcox into signing a statement that according to him was fabricated. Erica Cancer, who was also coerced by Detective Kenneth P. Wilcox into testifying to fabricated information. Samuel Frazier, who was arrested for a sealed indictment charging him with the criminal sale of a controlled substance after some negotiations with Detective Kenneth P. Wilcox. A 2-page statement was produced, and despite the sealed indictment, Samuel Frazier was permitted to walk out of the Albany Police Department. And last but not least, Vondell McCall, who while in Albany County Jail facing a B-felony sale of cocaine, his second possession of a loaded firearm, and a violation of 5-year felony probation, had his lawyer, Edmund Scope, schedule an appointment with the District Attorney Joseph Muir and Detective Kenneth P. Wilcox. At this meeting, Vondell agreed to testify to a fabricated story in exchange for a more suitable sentence. For more on this case, go to www.freebono.com. Free me.
My name is Anthony Malloy, and I decided to speak out on some of the things that took place in 2001. Actually, to be more specific, some of the evidence that was relied upon and was wrongly used to convict Sherodd Craft. First and foremost, I was the guy that was arrested for the murder case in 2001 by Officer Kenneth P. Wilcox. And I was brought down to the precinct, and at that time, I guess the case was still being investigated, whatever, but they had numerous different statements by a guy named Desmond Tatro and a few other statements saying that I was the shooter and I was the guy that did this crime. And at that time, they knew that was more people involved. They was making it out to be an uptown, downtown thing, and they brought Sherodd Craft name to me. And they told me that they had information that he had that I told them no, he didn't do it. I didn't know anything about that. And at that time, Officer Kenneth P. Wilcox had left the interrogation room and came back and, was threatening me and basically caused me to go through with this and sign this for me to get free. And as a result, they kind of used some of this evidence against Sherodd Craft. And shortly after this took place, about 2 weeks after this took place, I was questioned again by the officers, and I did tell them I recant the statement, in fact, that none of this evidence was true and it should not be relied upon. And the officers basically just threatening me and trying to cause me to get me to do things, that wasn't right, but basically holding over my head that if I didn't do this, then in fact this could be me charged as murder, because they had numerous different statements that they were changing people's names on, and just a lot of foul stuff was being done. And I decided to do this because I strongly feel as though some of this should be looked into. I feel it's extremely unfair and unjust, and I strongly feel as though without them coercing me and anybody else that has something to do with this case, that the results would be extremely different.
My name is Tyshawn Golston, and I'm speaking on behalf of Sherodd Craft. I've known him all my life and know he has been wrongfully incarcerated. For more details on the Free Bono movement, go to www.freebono.com.
Also, I like to be a little more specific. When I was in the interrogation room the very first time, Officer Kenneth P. Wilcox, whole demeanor was just, he had to close this case. He had to convict someone of this case. And he made that very clear to me that he didn't care who went to jail for it. Someone from uptown was going to jail for this case. And in fact, he arrested me and had a few false witnesses ready to testify against me in regards to this case. So it's very obvious and evident that they just wanted to convict someone for this case. And I strongly feel as though, and I believe as though, Sherodd Craft is an innocent man. And I told this story a while ago. It fell on deaf ears. No one listened to it. And I'm just basically trying to raise awareness to the situation and expose some of the foul things that was done and used in convicting Sherodd Craft.
In today's justice system, not everyone gets an equal share. If you don't have the money to go ahead and actually fight your case or fight the charges that may be put up against you, sometimes you get railroaded, or sometimes it's something totally different. There may be individuals on the other side of the law, sometimes the same people who are supposed to be in place to protect you, that may be wrongfully doing you. In this particular case, it's kind of hard to understand where we're trying to go without understanding all of the facts. So I want to go ahead and take you back before we go ahead and go forward. I want to talk to you about an officer, rest in peace to him and to his family, but we want to talk about an officer in this particular case named Kenneth Wilcox. The reason why we're going to go ahead and talk about him is in regards to a lot of the shady dealings that he had to do in several cases that also has to do with the case involving Sherodd Craft. It's very important to understand these details, because without understanding these details, we can't really bring truth to light, and that's what we're trying to do today. So I want to give you one example, and I'm going to go ahead and give you another one, but I want to start with a case in particular in regards to Kevin Cherry back in 1999. The reason why we want to focus on this particular case is because Kevin Cherry was actually accused of murder, and they had a statement that was actually, after 25 days or so after he was actually locked up, supposedly Kevin Wilcox obtained a statement from him which actually implicated himself in the murder. Kevin Cherry denied that and said that Detective Wilcox had actually wrote that statement himself. What actually happened was that the jury had a hard time believing what was actually being said in the statement. A lot of the things in the statement was written up or put in the statement that only the person who would have done the act could have known a lot of these details. But that first trial, actually ended up being deadlocked and ended up having a mistrial. And then before the second trial began, the person who actually did do the murder was actually arrested about 2 days prior to the second trial. So what happened to that original statement that Detective Wilcox said that he had obtained, and this person, Kevin Cherry, had implicated himself in the murder? What happened to that? So if this person implicated himself in the murder, how can you find out at the beginning or before the beginning of a second trial that there was actually another man who actually committed the murder and was charged with the murder? You got to look at the facts. Sometimes the facts never make it to light, and sometimes innocent people are put behind bars as a result of it.